Well, here I am again after my Bible study, feeling like I need to somehow express what I'm feeling. I don't know, it's just weird every time. Today I couldn't barely say anything at the Bible study because what was trying to come over me was self-pity. As I was listening to others speaking about, what their struggles are with moving, most of them are military spouses, moms with children, but young moms around my age, not some even possibly younger than me, and I'm 34. And I was listening to them saying how they sometimes feel lonely, and every time they have to leave, they need to make new friends, and how they had to get out and try to be part of a community. Their kids, how they struggle with their kids when their husbands aren't there. When they have to go to deployments or TDYs where they'll be gone for possibly a few months or a month or so, and they're left alone caring for the kids. And I was listening to all of it, and I could relate to every single thing they were saying, being that I was military myself. I myself was in the military, and then my husband was military as well. I was a military brat because my dad was military, so I moved around with him before I even joined the military. Never really had friends after I left. I had friends in Germany before I moved to the States and in high school and stuff, but I would always move around, so I never made very deep lasting relationships. And I could just relate to everything they were saying. So what was trying to come over me was the self-pity of, well, I have nothing right now. I have no friends. I have one friend that I can talk to about stuff, but she does not live around me. She and we primarily talk about what God is doing in our lives. It's not like someone I can lean on necessarily for everyday things. So I had to learn to depend on God and to lean on Him. But I was just listening, and I feel like God gave me a different perspective because I chose to listen, and I couldn't even really get upset and have self-pity like I wanted to, because I was like, yeah, I know what you feel like, but I couldn't. I just saw it from a different perspective, and the perspective is this. I'm trying to think of how to say it in the nicest way possible, because this is personal to me too. Not just the ladies I was listening to, but we all feel like that sometimes. So it was more like, well, what do we have? And what do we gain in our difficult times? What do we gain in all of that? We can't make life just about ourselves and what I want and what I don't have, when there are some people that have way less than us. But it was mainly like, this is how we even know God is there. This is why we even pray. This is why we even reach out for His help when we recognize that we don't have. In not having something, we learn to appreciate. We learn to be thankful. We learn to be grateful. If we don't have friends for a long period of time, we can make God our best friend, and there's nothing interfering with that. There's no one that we will call before we pray. There's no one we will lean on before we lean on God. There's stuff to be learned in difficulty. There's something beautiful in it if we choose to see it. Seeing it is difficult, but once God gives that perspective, there's really sometimes no going back. And afterwards, I was like, you wanted to self-pity yourself, Janine, but then you realized how blessed you are. I realized I'm blessed because I learned to trust in God. I learned to make Him my best friend. I learned to not say me, me, me. I'm not saying that I never do. It happens, but I snap out of it quicker because of the perspective He has given me. And it shouldn't be about me. It should be, who can I bless? Who can I do something for? It should be, I can be stable wherever I'm at because God is with me, and I'm secure in Him and under the shadows of His wings. It should be, He's my best friend. And I don't know, it's just, if you find yourself having difficulty or not having, and everyone around you seems to have it, but you're lacking in this area, ask God for a different perspective on it, because life is not about here and now only. We get precious moments, but sometimes we don't see them if we're only looking at what we do not have. Our nature is to see the negative. It takes practice, and it is a blessing to see the positive, and what you do have. And if with that new perspective God can give you, you can see the beauty that comes from ashes. You have to have ashes. You have to have a loss. You have to lack for a time something. God provides our needs, okay? But sometimes when I say a lack, like not having a friend, not having a spouse, not having children, something you don't absolutely need, but you really want it and your soul longs for it. The loss or the lack or the not having something you really desire and want, and sometimes for years and years and years, and sometimes maybe never get it. Learning to see it from a different perspective and how blessed you are, because believe it, life really isn't just about us. It is about what you can give out, what you can pour out, what you can sacrifice for somebody else. If you never lost your mother, your sibling, your family, somebody in your family, if you don't know what it's like to not have a friend, if you don't know what it's like to be poor and not have anything to eat, not having clothes to wear, not having, I don't know, so many things, how could you ever possibly have those amazing moments where you can pour out to somebody else or pour into somebody else that's experienced the same moment, or you can relate to somebody, those deep and vulnerable talks you can have with people where all of a sudden, just from talking and relating and connecting to somebody, your entire day is better. How else would you have that desire to give to the needy and then see in giving to somebody else how much joy it brings you? We often as humans and as society today, at least in America and certain other societies, are so focused on gaining for ourselves, making our lives pretty in the way that we imagine or society tells us it is pretty, achievements. And we go from one to one to one to the next. I want more. You get it. Now I have it. Now I want more. We're never satisfied. We always want more. And because of that, we never have those moments when we recognize how blessed we actually are. But if we shift the focus from what can I have to make me happy to who can I make happy, life changes. It's different. It is a perspective that some of us will have to fight for on a daily basis to keep, because everything around us tells us you're lacking something. Everything around us tells us there is bigger and better that you could have. But we have to purposely try and be like Jesus. Jesus didn't live for himself. He absolutely did not. And if we're Christians, that is what we should strive for. Not fitting in with the world, not having what everybody else has, not having the cutest clothes, not having the best cars, not having the best paying job. It's not about that. It really isn't. And that's why we oftentimes feel like we lack. But when the Bible tells us that Jesus is our shepherd and we lack nothing. So I don't know, there's so much more I want to say, but I don't have the words to express it. I just thought it was a true blessing to see that today. To be reminded of our human side and how we can get as people. But if nothing comes from this video, the main thing that I want to get across is ask for a new perspective from God. He gives perspective. That is where your wisdom will come from. Those new perspectives on things. Him completely flipping one thing that you think into something completely different, and you see it in a new light. It will change your life. That is what Christianity is about. We're supposed to be transformed in our thinking. We're supposed to have the mind of Christ, not our own. So if you find yourself being the same way as all your friends, being the same way as all the people around you, complaining about the same things, or complaining period, and being like the world, agreeing too much with what the social media is doing, or agreeing too much with the news, his ways and his thoughts are above ours. So should ours be as we're being transformed, because we gain new perspective. So when you hear people going on about the negative in their lives, you're supposed to be that light and that hope that is able to say, have you ever considered it from this perspective, to give people hope, to speak the opposite, the optimism, to speak the positivity into somebody's life, and to not succumb and to not give in to speaking the same negativity, hopelessness, and loss, and as a person might be speaking to you. And I think it's just beautiful if we choose to look on heavenly things and not choose to see the earthly things only. It elevates our lives, and that is the hope I believe God has for us, to see it differently in order to give that hope and that different to somebody else. That's who we should be as Christians, light in the world, light that shines into darkness, not a light that hides in darkness by being just like everybody else, or not speaking up and letting that light shine. Let your good works shine. And even if it gives you the fear that you will not be accepted, well, Jesus was rejected. He was not accepted. And he tells us clearly in his word that it will be the same for us. But it is not about now. That rejection will teach you something, and it will only be for a short time, because hereafter, it will all make sense, because we will all die. And it's just a simple truth. You can endure. Endurance brings beautiful character. It will make you stronger. It is okay, and you're not alone. We're all going through it. It's okay. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Bless you guys. Have a good day.